Hi, everybody. I'm Josh. I see some of my students here. Thank you for coming. I'd like to first thank you guys, everybody, for watching the film. It's a tremendous film. If you've seen it for the first time, I hope you really enjoyed it. If you've seen it for multiple times, I hope you also really enjoyed it. I'd like now to introduce you to a couple of my friends, Claudia Castellow and Michael Shawner, editors of Creed, also of Fruitvale Station, writer-director Ryan Coogler's previous film, which won the Jury Award and Audience Award at Sundance in 2013, I believe. Claudia is a bodyboarding champion and samba dancer from Rio de Janeiro, who has lived in the U.S. for the last 15 years. She is also an alumnus of NYFA. She took a 3-month editing class here many years ago, and then she also went to USC. In addition to Creed and Fruitvale Station, she has edited feature films such as The Funeral Guest, Breaking Through, and Breaking Broadway. Michael Shawner is from Rhode Island, is a huge New England Patriots fan, also attended USC, and has edited such films in addition to the Ryan Coogler films, Glass Stains, Warren, Tell, and Fourth Man Out, and he is currently working on the Dirty Dancing remake for television. So please welcome Michael and Claudia. So, thank you for coming, guys.
Thanks for having us.
So, as my students here know, I am a huge comic book fan, so I want to start with the origin story. So what brought you guys to Los Angeles? What brought you guys to filmmaking? And then what brought you guys to Creed?
In my case, I went to my bachelor. My bachelor was in journalism in Brazil, and I was always driven to documentaries. When I came to the U.S., I didn't right away said, wow, I want to get into film school. It all kind of happened. I first lived in Orange County, was competing bodyboarder. I used to be a professional bodyboarder. And then it got old, and then I decided, I want to go back to finding the same path of documentaries. And I had an opportunity to work in a production company in Santa Monica that did commercials. And there I started little by little learning editing, and I found out that that was something that I could pursue. I kind of had a feeling for it. And then I met a former professor of here. He asked me if I wanted to help him to edit a movie, but I was really, really raw at that time. It took me 3 months to edit a 15-minute short film.
If it took me 15 months to do a short film, that would be lucky.
Because you're busy.
No, because I can't edit. I don't even think I could turn on the Avid.
Anyway, that was how I started, and then I came here for editing school for a 3 months intensive course that helped me a lot. After that, I did a feature documentary, and I found out that I still needed to learn more, especially being from a different country. I didn't know a lot of how the whole process of filmmaking was. So I decided to apply to USC, and our program teaches producing, writing, directing, editing, and sound.
It's very similar to the program if you guys are in the filmmaking department have here. Very similar.
And that was great for me. That was really, really great. I felt like I had the opportunity to grow a lot, and after that I still wanted to be an editor, even though I was exposed to all the other areas. And while I was at school, we made connections with other filmmakers, other friends that had similar mentality, similar goals to what I had, and that was the beginning.
Cool.
So I'm Mike. Everybody, thanks for coming, and I'm glad you're still here. It's always you always hope that there's an empty house when you're doing a Q&A. But I'm from Rhode Island, smallest state northeast, 3,000 miles away from here. But when I was 12, my parents got a big VHS camcorder, and I was that annoying kid who would grab it every chance I got, tell my friends to go over here, do this, do that. And when I showed, my parents and neighbors and friends and stuff, they really like it, or they like some parts of it, and there's something about, you guys know, you're sitting here and you have experience in this. That's when I caught the bug. You show somebody something that's very personal to you, that you've created out of nothing, and they respond to it, and there's really, I'm getting chills right now, there's really no feeling like it, in the world, and I never could shake that feeling, and at that point, I always wanted to be making something, creating something, changing people's opinions on things, giving them a new perspective on stuff. It's not really a thing you do, where I'm from. You're either a teacher, a businessman, stuff like that. And I hooked up the camcorder to my VCR, and I didn't even know editing existed. I thought films were all shot in order, but I just kind of figured it out myself, knowing that it was easier to shoot one way than the other. And then when I got to high school, I saw someone working on a computer, and I asked what they were doing, and they said, "Oh, I'm editing a video. It's a thing called Final Cut." And at that point, if I was editing my own movie, I'd cut to the world exploding, because that's what happened in my head. And it was the greatest thing ever. And I just always, I worked on any small production I could that was local, which, one every couple of years probably happens out there. And I got a job in as a waiter, because that's what you do when you come to LA. You get a job as a waiter, and then you either do auditions if you're an actor, or you write at night, and all that stuff. And so I graduated. I was working as a bartender, and I had that longing to create and to do something bigger with my life. And I said, all right, I made one of those big life decisions that you make to yourself, and when you say, I'm going to do this, and then things start to fall into place, and you sort of make those little decisions. That little voice in your gut tells you sort of, do you want to go left or right? You go right, and it happens to be the right thing. So I Googled best, I was going to come out and start from wherever I had to start, because I knew I wanted to do it. And but I said, well, I kind of want to know, like Claudia, how films are made. I have no idea. So I Googled best film schools in the country, and USC came up as I was like, ooh, George Lucas went here. Ooh, this person. So I applied there and wrote this crazy essay about how I was going to change the world, and the world would be a better place if they let me in sooner. Which was a lesson. Right? Just act like you're supposed to be there, because I got to tell you, with this one, we've been to the top, and I'm sitting in a meeting with people worth billions of dollars, and I'm looking around like, wow, these people really have no clue what they're doing. But I'm sure we'll get. That's the end of the journey. But so USC let me in, and it was. I don't know if you guys have ever had that feeling where you're very present, and you're like, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be at this moment in my life, and it's the greatest feeling in the world, very reassuring. And I felt that when I got to USC. I'm like, okay, here we go, let's do it. And you go through all the trials, you make stuff, and you're like, why does this suck? And then you just keep making it again and again. And I was like most film students, or people just want to make movies. You think directing is it? Like, you want to be a director, you want to be that Scorsese, you want to be that Spielberg. And so I went and I took a directing class, and at SC, and there's this guy making these 2 or 3 minute short films that were just incredible, that were making me feel something, that would change my mind about things. And I don't, I'm the guy that'll sit in the back, like I'm like you guys back there. I'll sit in the back, I'll take everything in from there. And but there was something that just compelled me, and my gut said, you need to talk to this guy. And I just went up to him. I said, hey man, like, I don't know how, but I need to work with you. You're making all this stuff that I want to make, and he's like, all right, he's like, for sure, man, And I was like, I guess I can edit a little bit, and that's how I met Ryan Coogler, and I think that that kicked off everything, and when he was selecting us to edit one of his first projects.
Can you talk a little bit about that? Just sort of how the process worked and how you guys came together as an editing team?
Yeah, well, I think my experience was a little bit different than yours, because I wasn't going to take that class. I wasn't going to do that until I found out that he got selected, and then I kind of like put on my politician hat.
So the background is, just to explain, there's a class at SC that everybody has to take, and you have to do a crew position, and it's competitive, and it's kind of a pain in the butt, and you have to suck up to your classmates who get selected to direct films, and Ryan Coogler was one of those selected to direct a film this semester.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, if any position, the director would kind of pitch their script that they were doing, and you know, all the different disciplines would submit. So we submit editing reels and stuff, and Claudia was killing it in film school. Like she was like the editor to go to, right? And so Ryan had basically already, you couldn't choose before, but he was like, I want Claudia. Like, I don't know if he ever told you this, but he was like, I want Claudia, Claudia. And I kind of came in, and he had already kind of decided on this other guy, but I kind of threw my name in, and he liked the work that I was doing. But I think the thing that really sort of got me that job, which got me this career and kicked it off, was he was in that directing class. He was shooting a short the next morning, like the day before Thanksgiving. Everybody was going home, and he was like, didn't really know what to do for production design. He's like, hey man, do you know how to production design? I was like, yeah, I know how to production design. And again, fake it till you make it. And so like, you know, that was like 10 o'clock at night. I woke up at 4 a.m. like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. So I went to the grocery store, because I had to dirty up some walls and make it look kind of grimy.
Coca-Cola.
So yeah, I use Coca-Cola, and I use like coffee grounds. I think that hallway still looks like shit. But I'm standing there in the grocery store, and I'm like, all right, what do I do? And then all of a sudden, oh, what's up, bro? And I turn on, it's Ryan, standing right there buying snacks for the crew. But that day, I was a production designer, set dresser, first AC, gaffer. Just I got lunch, like every little thing. And what I learned was, you know, find an opportunity and you know, meet the people and follow your gut. But then once you get the opportunity, just work your ass off. You know, give what you have, and if you do that, and don't be a dick, just be a good person.
I think what's really important about that story, though, is at the time he was just another guy in class. He wasn't like, you know, the guy directing Black Panther. He was just Ryan.
But you could see.
You could.
Yes.
Yeah.
You could. You could.
I was gonna do. You
no, that's and then eventually he chose me, and then I met Claudia, and we worked together. But
and it was great. Yeah.
So talk about that, the co-editing process.
Okay, we usually divide, like, I'm gonna start on these scenes, you're gonna start on that scene. In Fruitvale, we could actually do that. I wanna edit this, I wanna edit those, and then we grind as much as we could, and then put the movie together. Ryan could see it, and after Ryan came, we all kind of worked in every scene together. Like, we would one day feel like, oh, I'm feeling this scene, I wanna take a peek at it. So even though if the first cut was his, I had the freedom to go and re-edit and put my take on it, and he could do the same thing. And towards the end, it got narrow, going towards this direction, like the three of us agreeing and working together, cut by cut, pretty much. Yeah. And during Creed, since we had a turnaround, really fast turnaround, as the footage came, we worked through production. So the footage of that day would come, one of us would edit everything and turn back, and then next day, for example, if he took it first, the next day was mine, and that was until the end of production. And after that, we did the same thing. Like, I would work on his scenes, and he would work on my scenes. It's kind of a different way of editing. If you see two editors working out there, they usually don't exchange scenes. They're very like, this is mine, that's mine.
Now, do you think that may have come from the experiences at SC, where, you know, just like we teach here, collaboration?
I think so. I think so.
Yeah, the interesting thing about Claudia and I is that we are one of us is the yin, one is the yang. Like, we are opposites. Like, I'm kind of a like intense dude from the Northeast, and she's a super laid back former professional surfer from Brazil. So, you know, we kind of go attack things a little bit differently. And kind of what you were saying with Fruitvale, we came on after they already shot. So the whole movie was already shot, and we kind of got to divvy up what it was. And she edits very organically and with feeling. And I'm a little more of like, why is this cut like this? Why is this cut like this? So kind of when we both have our take, they're different enough that they work. And we get into our creative discussions and heated debates about, no, this frame or this shot or that shot, or this is what it says about the character and whatever. And Ryan jokes, he says when she and I actually agree on something, that he knows to use it in the movie, and that's it, like, end of discussion. But yeah, so with the SC days, I mean, I think a big thing of it too is just the passion. Like we still have that because Ryan is such a great human being and a great filmmaker and makes such compelling stuff. And when we started at SC, it's our first opportunity to say, okay, we're the editors of this. This is gonna be ours. We have ownership over it. And I think that's something you never want to lose. You know what I mean? Even if I'm doing a project I'm not super thrilled about or in love with, you find a reason to love it. You find a reason to love these characters, to care about this, because if you're working such long hours, so I think we kind of keep that. And we never, if Claudia's ever like, I want to cut this scene, like I'm feeling it, like she wakes up, she comes in like ready to beat somebody up. I'm like, whoa, all right, take the scene and do your thing, So we kind of let each other be who we are, in the editing room, and I think that's diversity can create some amazing things that way.
Which is an excellent transition.
Of course. I think there's something really interesting you talk about, and I'm really interested in the journey kind of from film school and working with Ryan and kind of identifying, this is the guy in class that I know I want to work with, because I think we all kind of have that experience to a certain degree, or that woman in class that I definitely want to work with. But what was that journey to going from working as a student film to working on your first professional feature? People always say, I'm going to take that person with me, and what it's like. How was that transition for you guys, and what did it look like moving on from the short film to the feature?
It was a challenge to work in Fruitvale Station.
Well, it was a couple of years too, wasn't it? From Fig to Fruitvale Station, it was a couple of years, right?
Yeah.
So because I know, my students here, they have a little bit of time in school, but they're going to get out, and it's a little bit of time until that first thing happens. Yeah. So what was that journey like, even before Fruitvale Station?
I went to Brazil. I took some time. I was like, okay, I'm done with film school. Now I'm going to rest. Mm-hmm. And then I got a call, like, we need you guys to work with me. There's basically no pay. You're going to be living in the same house. Mike lived in the closet.
I said for Fruitvale, I lived in a closet. It was a one-bedroom apartment they put us in, and I'm obviously gonna let Claudia have the room.
It was very nice to have.
The only other little enclave was a closet, no door, had a curtain, and it fit. An air mattress fit perfectly, like a twin air mattress just fit perfectly right inside it.
That was it.
That was. I mean, we were working like 7 days a week. Also, if anybody was doing laundry, my light had to be on. So that's so no naps, no. If Claudia's doing late night,
no laundry after 10.
Yeah. That didn't really stop us, but.
And we didn't stop working. It was like work, and then little sleep, and then work.
Yeah.
It was massive. It was a lot of work. But we were really passionate about the subject, about what we were doing. So in the end, it definitely paid off.
And it was, Scott.
There were days where Ryan didn't go home. He slept right there in the sofa. And then there was one day that he went to the bathroom.
I'm not kidding. Let's just say, when you're up for hours and hours and hours, and your memory gets loopy, and like you think something's said or done, and you just start cracking up. We're gonna leave it at that. Let's not. Let's.
There are funny things that happen. Because we're so tired, and
I would like to address this. I like to say Fruitvale is one of my favorite movies, I think, of all time. I really wanted to screen that movie for you guys tonight because it's just such a poignant film and so topical. It talks about such important things. And getting back to this thing that you were talking about earlier, in terms of how you guys kind of complement yourself. This is Ryan Coogler is an urban director. He's not the guy that comes in and is like, "Hi, how are you guys doing?" He's the guy that comes in and he is who he is.
Well, he's kind of like that too, though.
Is he?
Oh, he's
I've never seen that version.
Really?
No.
Oh. Well, okay, maybe a little bit different than that. But
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, please.
Oh, he's disarming. How like everybody you meet the guy and he'll remember like your kids' names, your wife's name, everything, and he'll walk over and be like, "That's my best friend. I have a new best friend." Like he's just that kind of guy. But you're absolutely right. He has that. He's very much where he comes from. You know what I mean? And it's actually really amazing to sort of see that kind of posture and confidence and like very sure of what he wants to do and the stories he wants to tell, combating with the higher ups in this industry. It's a sight to see, and it's like, yeah, we got one on the. Us good guys have somebody on our side.
I should back up for a second. For those of you who don't know Fruitvale Station, it's a film that is somewhat biographical, and it takes place in San Francisco one night when a young black man is detained on a train station and ends up being shot by the police. And it's something that's very topical about things that are going on in our communities right now, and I think it had a huge impact on a lot of people and a lot of people's lives, and it really kicked off a larger discussion about what was going on relating to race relations in America. And I really wonder what it was like for you guys, coming from Brazil and coming from the Northeast, and then collaborating with this director who's bringing a really unique, authentic, urban look at this, and then you guys are the final word on how this all comes together. What was that experience like for you?
For me, it was interesting. I sort of, as an editor, we're the first audience, right? So with that in mind, I had gone to San Francisco about 7 months before he called me to do the movie, and kind of gave me the premise of it. And I remember being in the hotel room and seeing a local news report about the civil trial that Oscar Grant's family was trying to win to at least get some money, because the criminal trial had obviously gone horribly wrong. And I remember watching it and then seeing the actual video on the news and being just floored and could not believe it. And I was pissed off. I was pissed off because it happened, and that someone close to my age was treated that way and killed. And I was pissed off that I had no idea that it had happened. And the thing is most of this country, where I'm from, the Midwest, like you don't hear about this stuff, and it's sickening. And I've had a few conversations with people out here, and a lot. Some people believe that there's this sort of idea where people in the rest of the country just don't care, but it's not knowing. And I think what Fruitvale was able to. I had a friend who told me, he goes, "Look, you know me. I don't care about activist stuff. I don't care about social issues really. I care about my family, and that's it." But I sat there in silence after that movie, and then had a 20-minute conversation with a complete stranger next to me, and that is the greatest achievement that I think that we could have in that. So from my experience, witnessing that and having that experience in real life of and then 6-7 months later getting a call, "Hey, do you want to make a movie about this?" It's like, yes, it is like I found out about it. Now I actually have an outlet for my anger, for my frustration, for my pain, for all this stuff, and that actually kind of pushed us through the hard times too. It's like, because you make a movie about a squirrel running through trees, like, okay, cool, I'll go home and go to sleep, like no one's whatever. But when you make something that's about somebody's life that can have an impact that's important, that you believe is important,
and knowing his family was going to see it.
Oh God, that was terrifying. But that's a whole different story of how to treat a real person. But yeah, so that my experience was basically like this is my opportunity to do it. Like, is this real? And I think I was sort of the liaison for people who weren't in that community that didn't know that kind of thing happened. And there were a lot of discussions about, through the editing process, we came up with the opening of the movie with Fruitvale. We opened the movie with the actual footage of the guy getting shot, the YouTube video. And our point was, we need to slap people in the face with this. People need to see that this shit actually happens. And it's all part of that sort of experience of this world is not, wait, this actually happens, and
And we have a serious problem with the media in the whole world nowadays, that everything is so polarized. Every vehicle wants to show in a particular angle, and you have to read so much to kind of start understanding what's going on in the world. And human rights issues is not a priority for the media. And film, I found in film a very powerful tool to touch those subjects without people turning their face away. You know, I think when you go to the movies, you kind of let the guards down, and you're there for how many, you know, an hour and 20 minutes, and you open yourself to see what's on the screen. So whatever the filmmaker puts there on the screen, it's really, really, really powerful. So I think it's important for all of us to have the awareness of what we can do, you know, as communicators, because film is an art form, but it's also a very powerful form of educating people or raising an awareness. And that's, I think, what we did in Fruitvale Station. We had the opportunity to humanize, you know, a victim. And a victim, by the eyes of the media, is never humanized. So just take this and think about it. And I think every one of us here have that opportunity to use for the best. And that's why I make movies, actually.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think just to add to that a little bit, specifically with Fruitvale, and you mentioned his family. So Oscar Grant's family was going to see this movie for the first time at Sundance. So we didn't even care about Sundance. That was whatever. We were done with the movie and just happy. But his family was a big thing, and the first cut of the movie, Oscar was the nicest human being that you've ever met in your life. And it was good, it worked, but there's something that we weren't being true, because nobody is the nicest person ever all the time. Mm-hmm. And you know, there's a scene in the movie where he goes to get his job back, and they did one take where he yells at his boss and threatens his boss, like, "You want to see me outside? I'm gonna wait till you're done. I gotta feed my daughter." It's amazing. That was the one take that he got mad. Everything else he was just kind of like begging. And then it was towards the end, we went in and just cut this, and it changed the movie completely, because it made him a more complex character. And through that, through his interactions with his family and his daughter and his mother and his girlfriend, we all have significant other and parental issues or whatever. And having this, like, he can be nice, he can be all these different things to all these different people. I think that actually brought people closer to him and saw, like, we could relate to that. We could relate to getting frustrated. We can relate to having our mom say, "You better don't be driving with the phone, in your ear and put it in your hat," and whatever. So kind of, there's sort of this adage, I guess, it's when you make things more specific to a character, they become more universal. And I think when my
students, you guys hearing that?
But yeah, in those specific moments, those specific relationships, and the textures of those are what make people feel and cry for Oscar, which they wouldn't have watching a news report.
Absolutely. We've been watching this screening of Creed for 2 hours and 10 minutes. I realize we haven't even touched base on Creed yet. So let's jump forward a little bit, if we could, in time, and talk about maybe how this opportunity Creed came in. Be a very different film than Fruitvale, independent film, moving into the studio system.
Working with a 500-pound gorilla, Sylvester Stallone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like to say that there's, every film has its unique challenges. What were some of the challenges that you faced specifically with this film that kind of made it a unique process?
A lot of footage.
Yeah.
There was a lot of footage. The fight scenes were very challenging because they used 6 cameras. I think there were shots that they used 9 cameras. I blacked out. I was telling them backstage that as soon as I started Creed, I passed out and I woke up and the movie was done, so I can't answer.
You had to buy the DVD later to find out.
Yeah, and we had to edit the fight scene in the beginning without having the whole story. Without having a real feeling for the footage of the scenes that led to that. So that was kind of a challenge in my opinion.
Well, it was green screen. So in that last fight, the first 20, 30 rows are real people, but then it's all green screen in the back. So in order to because they had announced the release date, I think 2 or 3 weeks into shooting, and we're like, what? Like, what? You know, they had a lot of faith in it, I guess. So we had about 2 weeks to like all but picture lock the final fight at the end, because they, you know, money and time and all that stuff to get it done. But we had that experience on Fruitvale a little bit, because anything that's on the subway train in Fruitvale had green screen in the background, like anytime it was moving. So we had to turn that around really, really quickly and stuff. So, you know, that was definitely a big
a challenge,
yeah.
because we had to have reactions that complemented the rest of the movie. You know, like talks on the corners that had to do with their whole process until then, that we couldn't really explore too much because we were in a rush. And then, of course, afterwards we could go back and rework that out. But it was kind of like, in the beginning.
So.
You're talking about the fight scenes. You know, I think Rocky is iconic fight scenes. You know, you're talking about dealing with, I mean, the 500 gorilla in the room is that a generation has come up behind these fight sequences that now you're looking at putting it together. So how much was, you know, what came before influenced what you did, and how much was that a part of the process as well?
You know, I think a lot of it did. It came into play in a lot of different ways. I mean, you know, we were constantly balancing we want to make this movie for everybody. So people who've never seen a Rocky movie before in their life can watch this, pick it up, not miss a beat, you know. But you know, there was some previs work. I don't know if you guys are familiar with pre-visualization. A lot of bigger movies do it. Marvel does it like crazy. That's not a segue.
So you can't talk about Marvel?
No. Just for money and stuff like that, like they plan every single shot as much as they possibly can. So they had, before Creed even shot, they had Claudia cut together storyboards and animatics from the final fight so Ryan and the producers can see, like, okay, this is going to work out if we cover it, you know, this way. And then I had the task, two tasks, one of which was the hardest thing I've ever done as an editor, and but it was cool because Michael B. Jordan came over to my house and we watched boxing. But Ryan had me break down the script and find every single line of action, boxing action, find it on clips on the internet of real boxing fights, download that stuff and cut it all together into a 20-minute sequence. It's like editing something where you don't even know if the footage actually exists. So it was terrible. So that was sort of the realistic aspect that Ryan always goes for. You know, this real kind of, the punches feel like they hurt. You know what I mean? Like, nope. And Ryan was always like, if the punch doesn't look like it hits, take it out of the movie. I don't care if I wrote it. I don't care if I love it. Like, take it out if it doesn't feel real. The other thing that Ryan had me do was basically think of every single fight of every single movie I could ever think of, and basically cut together these sequences of every fight from every movie, like everything from Play It to the Bone, that, you know, Woody Harrelson boxing movie, to Girl Fight, to, you know, all the Rocky. So we saw what it. Now, if you go back and watch the Rocky fights, it's terrible boxing.
Yeah.
They're this far away.
Because
you know, so
special effects weren't that good.
Yeah. So it was, you know, like you know, cutting together that real boxing footage, and just Ryan being so you know, specific about if it's got to look good. Now VFX, I don't tell a lot of people this, but VFX did some amazing stuff. They could actually make punches hit if they didn't hit.
And
so
ripple their face.
And they would ripple the face and put like sweat coming off and blood coming out and stuff like that. So if we had a sequence we loved, there's that awesome shot that actually passed through the ropes and back in the ring and out of the ropes when they're just wailing on each other. And there was one that was just missed completely, but they were able to fix that to kind of keep that. But yeah, I mean, there's, you know, when you're doing a Rocky movie, like you got to be. I'm actually more worried now. I'm doing the Dirty Dancing remake, so I'm more terrified of all the girls that are texting me like, "You better get this right. This is my favorite movie." But yeah, no. So.
And they're the montages also.
There are montages, yeah.
The montages are another challenge.
They're definitely
Another
a
big challenge.
Fights and montages are
The
similar.
hardest.
But what we wanted to do with the fights, and I honestly think that this is why it's so effective. I mean, obviously the setup for the fight, you care about the characters, and it's funny, when we first cut the fight together, we just cut the boxing, and it wasn't until we started adding the reaction shots of the mom and the girlfriend and Rocky that you actually like, oh my God, like I'm feeling emotion for these people. It's what the other people who care about this character are feeling just as much, if not more, than that guy.
You mean the reaction shots are more important than the action shots?
Sometimes.
At times,
okay.
Well, they're
right,
teammates. But but what were we talking about? Oh yeah, the thing with the fight is, it's not just punching. It's an emotional journey. It's Rocky coaching him. It's that father-son relationship. It's getting your ass kicked and then coming back and showing you got a little something, and then going to the depths of hell in those awesome Raging Bull homage, whatever. Yeah, homage. Sorry, I can't talk. And it's an emotional fight. It's an emotional journey. Where if you watch a lot of these other fights, like I watched Southpaw, last year and enjoyed it, but I was really critical of it because we were doing Creed, and the punches of it. It was just, once they got into the middle rounds, it was just punch. Oh my God, look at that hard punch, look at this blood, look at whatever. We brought, we tried to bring as much emotion, humanity, story, and it always goes back to story, montages, fast cuts, a lot of stuff happening, but there's a story. There's, Adonis is not getting it, he gets in a fight with the other dude, Rocky tells him to shut up and listen, and then he starts to get it. That's the story of that montage, So, it's really story. It's going back to story and above, the action, the hard hits, all that.
So speaking of story, and I don't know how much you guys are at liberty to discuss this, but my understanding is, if not two endings shot, then there was a conversation about a different ending of the film.
There were two endings.
There were two endings shot?
They shot two.
We edited two endings.
And it was a big discussion.
It was the biggest discussion of the movie. We had to fight until the last minute because the studio wanted him, or you already watched it, so we can talk about that. They still wanted Adonis to win, and we strongly believed that he had to lose because he wins something much more than that, which was the family sense and the humanity, which was more important than him being a winner. Mm-hmm. So on the fighting. So, and then we had discussions. Stallone was a big help for us because he had a lot of weight on that movie. Well, he's responsible for the whole series. And that was one point that he actually went to the other side, and we were like, "Oh, we're done! Oh my God!"
It's terrifying. And he came in, he's like, "We're gonna do this. We're gonna do this. We have no time. We have no time. We're doing it." And Ryan was out of the room, and I'm just sitting there like,
he was sitting on the
Claudia gets up and
room,
leaves,
and I look at him like, "I'm going to the bathroom." Excuse me.
And I'm sitting there, and he's like, and then he goes, "Where's Ryan? I don't want to say this twice." And I'm like, "I don't know." And I like slowly turn around and moved it slow, and then Ryan came in and kind of talked him down a little bit, and
he totally changed his thing.
Yeah, well, the thing about Sly is that he listens, and he listens to us. Like, he didn't have to listen. He's gonna come in, do this, do that, change this, but he respected Ryan so much. Because at the beginning, Ryan said, "Look, I know you're a director, I know you're a producer. Just let me direct. Like, you're a great actor. Do what you do. Let me worry about everything else." And
he trusted Ryan.
Got an Oscar nomination.
It should have been a win,
Okay.
but
Go
and then through the process, kind of trusted Ryan. So by proxy, he would listen to us too. But he would come in and he's one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life.
Funny.
And would come in with very specific notes, but also like on this time code, on this scene, this take, this frame. Like, I really like the delivery here. I really like this reaction here. And he would come with all that stuff. And I've never seen a producer do that, let alone one of the biggest icons in the history of movies.
And good notes. Like, he was
really
not
good
the
notes.
crazy producer.
Because a lot of other producers, if we're like, well, we don't think the character would really do that, and story, whatever, a lot of the producers would be like, "I don't care, do it. I'm that is what because I said so. He would actually stop and think, and if he agreed with this, and a lot of times he did. He would say, you know, yeah, you're right. Let's keep it. Let's move on. You know, and
yeah,
so
he cared. He really cared, and he knew what he was doing. He was not doing that for ego, because sometimes, a lot of times, you see. I have to say this. Some producers that come with the money, but they have no idea what they're talking about. But they have to have their prints.
So they
on the movie.
inject more.
Yeah,
of
they
themselves
force
in.
you to do things that are not good for the project, and it's really hard to deal with that because we were very passionate.
Half of editing is politics anyway, you know.
Yeah. And then you have to deal with that situation as best as you can.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always turn out for the best of the project, you know.
End of the day, it's just a movie.
And then you remember it's just a movie, and you move on.
You know, this is, this is kind of an ultimate rags to riches story. Stallone kind of creating this whole story, this whole world as an actor, you know, struggling to survive, you know, not really having an idea, writing the story, and then kind of getting somebody to sign on into it, and him saying, I want to be in it, and them saying, no way you're going to be in it, of course, and actually getting this thing, and, you know, really having this launch his career to becoming, you know, the Sly Stallone that we have. And it's really quite interesting, I think, that he was open to kind of this revamp, reintroducing the story to a whole new audience, I think, in a brand new way, and also, you know, to a very different audience, I think. And so I think it's really interesting to see how he's allowed this journey of this world that he's created to kind of take on a whole new generation in a way.
He combines the classic Rocky with the new language. One of the montages when Adonis is preparing, Rocky is getting sick, going through all the ups and downs of his recovering, and then we start the montage with a more classic.
It's like a classic Rocky, like the bell and the orchestra and stuff.
Oh my God, how is it?
Well, it's more of a classical score, like
a classical score. That's right. And then he meshes with hip hop.
Mm-hmm. And then Meek Mill comes in.
And to me, that's when you understand the language of the movie. It comes together like this is the language of the movie, the old and the new coming together. And you see all the motorcycles and there was a girl in the tricycle.
Tricycle? That was a tricycle.
Yeah.
It was a four-cycle.
Was it?
Quad.
Quad.
Yeah, anyway. But we almost cut that girl. Was like, no, the girl is staying. The girl has to stay. You know?
I do know. But I mean, I think that's an important thing for them to hear and for you to kind of talk about that empowerment that you have, you know, to be able to be on set, you know, and I think a lot of times we say this is, you know, not just because you got the opportunity to be there, you also kind of, there's a certain responsibility while I'm in this room to say, you know what? We don't have enough women in this project. We do need to, somebody needs to stand up and say, hey, there's not enough women showing up in this film in a positive way. Sure, we have them as the ring girl, but maybe we don't have them as positive, fully developed characters. Or, you know, and I think as editors, you also have that opportunity to be able to be the one that stands up in the room and say those things.
Adrian, throughout the Rocky, it was another time, you know, but I hated Adrian. Because she was very submissive. She was a different kind of woman. And then now I think women are more powerful. We're taking jobs that before we couldn't take because we have the ability to. It's nothing wrong with growing on this society. And I think, again, movies are a powerful tool for us to bring that information to the rest of the society that can't see it yet or can't accept it yet. And my way of doing that is helping portraying the women as strong and yet sensitive as we are nowadays, you know. So that's one of my missions also, to be careful and to portray people that are less represented in society in the best way I can. You know, it's something that I always keep in mind, and it's the most powerful tool we have nowadays. I feel like movies. Yeah.
So I would like to open it up. If you guys have questions, you've been sitting here and listening for so long, and I know you guys are burning away. You guys are film students. I'm wondering if you guys have any questions. There's a mic right back in the back there that's set up. If anybody has a question that you're wanting to ask these wonderful people.
How you guys doing tonight?
Good, yeah.
Good. My name's Dustin. I'm in the acting program, and I'm an actor who really understands the power of editing, because I know that until you guys get done with it, it could go all over the place. Like you said, that one scene that you changed, created that entire different aspect for the entire movie. So I'm really trying to force myself to, become very good with Avid and with a lot of the programs. My question is, obviously with Rocky, it's going on 40 years that it's been in our lives. When you come to a project like this, or any project really at all, because a lot of us are doing our own, short films or feature films or whatever we're doing, do you have, obviously the director has his vision and you serve his vision, but do you have like an idea at the very beginning that when you're cutting everything together, you're serving, or is it the characters that you focus on more to make sure in each shot you're serving the characters and then the characters will serve the overall story? Or do you just look at it from an overall story point?
Do you want to take it? The way I take the first time I approach the footage, I try to follow the vision of the director. Like I read the script, and my first cut is always based on the script, and I have in mind like suggestions, and I could also even have like whatever is on the script and my suggestion on the side to show to him, and we have the freedom of discussing with the director. Ideas and ways that things can go from there, but I always use the script as the base to at least start the process.
Every scene is different. I think to answer your question, yes to all of it, and that sounds weird, but. Because you say, do you follow overall story? Yeah, and there's an overall story, and then there's a story of the acts, and then there's a story of the scenes, and the story and you can really, if you keep going, keep asking why, keep asking how, you get to a place of each cut. Why are we going to be on this person? Why are we going to be on that person? But sort of, one thing that I learned, through working with Ryan, which is really great, and kind of. Your question kind of makes me think a lot about perspective, and whose perspective, are we looking at when we're cutting? Whose perspective do I want the audience to go along this ride with? And usually now you may have movies where you have 10 different main characters and they're following each one, and that's a little different. But the power of this and the power. There were a lot of scenes in this movie that in the script we went to Rocky before Adonis even got to Philly, and I remember going in and going through the footage and kind of seeing the cut come together, and I thought, if we're so much with Adonis, we want to be with him on his journey, why are we going across the country to someone else completely? Yeah, we know it's Rocky. We know Rocky's going to show up. We know people want to see Rocky, but this is not Rocky's story. We want to stay with Adonis, and we thought it would be the most effective to stay with him until he meets Rocky, and then they can, once you meet the character through Adonis and stuff like that, you could go to him, and then beyond that, really just you'll hear whose scene is it, this and that. I always kind of attack it like who. working with the flow of energy in a couple different ways between characters, and you always want to have. So if Adonis is in the scene, I mean, he's the main character. Like, it's always going to be through his experience. So when a big moment, someone else says a line that really affects him, cuts it. That's how we would kind of start doing that. But it's the flow of energy between the characters, but it's also. You also have to keep in mind the flow of energy between the movie and the audience, because ultimately that's what makes them feel. That's what makes them love the movie. Their own personal experience and ride in that. So it's kind of taking that dimension and that dimension, but all those things never leave your mind. When you're that focused, you're working that much on something. You always, and having discussion with the director and knowing the script and knowing what he wants. Is good, but you keep the pieces of that, and you keep sort of the shadow of that. But Ryan is a director who's great in the fact that he tells us if he could take ideas from everybody on set or anywhere, he would, and he would filter it. But there's not enough time, whatever. So he kind of it can be tough at times because he trusts us so much that he wants our input on it. So he tells us what he likes, and at that point, he lets us kind of come from where we come from. So I hope some of that answered your question. Sorry.
Thank you very much. So next.
Hi, my name is AJ. I was wondering, probably you guys growing up watching some of the Rocky movies, what was it like figuring out that you were going to be behind another Rocky movie?
Amazing.
Terrible. Terrible. It was the worst. No, it's still kind of surreal. I think about you just asked me that question. I'm like, what are you talking about? No, it still hasn't sort of hit. And I think that's a compliment to myself. No, it's a compliment to Ryan and to the people I work with, because we care. This is the same thing as Fruitvale. This is the same thing as Dirty Dancing. It's the same thing as a movie that you guys will never see, because I'm not letting anybody see it. That kind of thing, and it's an amazing experience. And when people, some of the best feeling weren't the critics, weren't anybody like that, but when you go on Twitter and people are saying like Creed, the second best Rocky movie or the third best Rocky movie since whatever, there's no feeling I can ever. It's one of the high points of my life, to answer your question. And a hell of a lot of pressure.
It was amazing. It was amazing when I saw behind. It wasn't any screening for friends and whatever. It was just a regular screening, and one of the guys after the fight, he jumped. And so nothing can pay that. I think that was my high point.
And I have one more question. Is there going to be Creed 2?
We don't know.
There will be. We're not going to be involved, I don't think. They believe that. So all the stuff I'm telling you, by the way, it's all stuff public that's been released in magazines and stuff. So that's how I train myself not to say certain things. But they've announced that they want to come out with a Creed 2. But they believe in, and I don't necessarily agree with them, but they believe that there's a window for sequels, that because they all think about the dollar, like the whole thing with them wanting Adonis to win. They, in much respect to them, they literally said, "Look, we want him to win because we will make more money, because people will come back."
They were going to make more
which we completely
money.
disagree with.
Yeah.
And both movies tested exactly the same numbers with both endings. But so the answer is, from what I know so far, yes, there will be a Creed 2. Ryan, unless they do it like in a few years from now, Ryan won't direct it, and we won't be on it. But I'm gonna try like crazy to get us in the editing room and see some cuts and kind of see, because we feel a lot of ownership over the movie, having lived with it for 10.5 months or something, almost a year. So yes, there will be. Hopefully it's good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What's up, Nelson?
What's up?
I didn't recognize you with the glasses.
Yeah, I'm trying to hide. Hey, well, good to see you.
Yeah, you too.
So this is my first time actually seeing Creed, and I really enjoy it. Congrats on the editing, by the way, guys. And I really believe that it's like more than a boxing movie, like you were saying about Southpaw, I think, yeah, it's totally different. I think, like, even if we cut off the boxing, it's still a good movie and makes sense. And Stallone is amazing, wow. My question, since it's my first time, I've seen the beginning, the way you introduce the boxers. It's like in Snatch, like they're doing an action and then they pose, and then they're their credits. And then I saw at the end, during the fight, near the end, it's like there's that fight, that fast pacing of editing where you see the blood and the eyes, then the swiping on the floor. I was wondering, is that like your guys' decisions, or is it like it was like imposed? We need that in the movie.
Well, that's a good question.
Yeah, I'm an acting, so
huh?
I'm in acting, so I have no idea, but I did.
Yeah. Well, you know, that the boxer intros, that was Ryan. Ryan wanted to do that. He wanted to sort of, and even that, something that's, you know, superficial as that and superimposed, but it was always through Adonis's perspective and his lens. So he was a boxing fan. He watched boxing. He watched the 24/7. And so he recognized these guys. So in his mind, he's like, okay, this guy's stats. He's sizing. It's the way that he's sizing these guys up as potential. And it's only with opponents. There was actually a couple of early cuts where when Rocky comes out of the basement, he's like, "How you doing?" And went boom, like, you know, Rocky Balboa, the Italian Stallion, like 52 and like something, so, you know what I mean? Which was awesome. But you know, we kept to this story with that. So that was Ryan's idea. He likes to incorporate, you know, a little bit of a grander thing in that way. If you ever see Fruitvale, he does a lot of text messages, and we was one of the first people to do that kind of thing. With specifically like that, I guess, hyper reality montage with the blood and the ropes, all that stuff was shot, or it was sort of like camera was down here, like, you know, they're doing stuff in between, like they were doing spit in a bucket, and then some got on the floor, so the camera guy just happened to go down there and do it. And that's something where, you know, you're, especially with a fight and that's that climactic, like if that fight doesn't work, if people aren't like, I can't look but I have to, I can't look but I have to, which is great seeing people in the theater actually doing this. But that was something that towards the end we were just recutting this montage, and I was like, man, I don't know, like let's take this stuff and see if we can do something with it. And it worked out that, like, you know, and in a weird way we're away from the characters, and it's just this, you know, anytime that blood comes on the screen, theaters go, ooh, you know, so because you relate that blood to someone else, and it was sort of like we had an idea, we just kind of did it, and not really knowing, like we trusted our gut, but not really knowing if it was going to work or not, and then when we felt something for it, you know, and other people did, we kept it in there.
Yeah, it reminded me of you know, Shaun of the Dead, the really fast.
Yeah.
And I was surprised by the ending. Actually, I didn't know. I thought it was going to be like a happy ending, so I'm pretty happy with it.
Nice.
It looks.
Well, it was happy.
It looks way better. Yeah, it is.
He got what he wanted
exactly,
in life. He got the
yeah.
father figure. You know, Rocky got what he wanted.
But like, it makes more sense to the character that he ends that way. So yeah. All right.
Cool.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So we're coming to the end of our time. I'd love to kind of wrap this up just a little bit. There's a question that I always love asking people is, you know, we're in this room of largely film students in this, you know, going through the experience now, and you're now well on the other side of that experience, but you went through this experience too. What is it, is there something that, you know, looking back on your experience back then, is there something that you know now that kind of you like, God, if I really realized that back then, I would have maybe, I really wish I'd have known this piece of information that I have now. Is there anything that you could offer to the students, to the people here that are in that process early in their film career, kind of trying to get things started, and you know, what have you learned along the way?
One thing that I learned at USC was to find your own voice, and that's what resonates every day that I'm working. It's like keep finding your own voice, because it changes also. But keep following, you know, whoever you are. And I think all the difficulties are going to be there. The schedule is massive, so be prepared. After and if you give yourself as much as we do, you get sick after every project. So take care of your body, your health, and if you really like what you're doing, it pays off. It's amazing. That's how I take it.
Everything happens for a reason, but I keep telling the destination is the journey. You know what I mean, and vice versa. Because once it's done, then it's done. Like there's just I have so much to say right now. I could talk for an hour. But here's the thing.
I'll cut you off.
Find things that speak to you. Whenever I read a script, I look at it as in what can I bring to it, but also what can this thing do for me. And every movie I've done has changed me in a way for the better. And it's usually a very similar way of how the character, what they go through. But I think for your position, one thing that I learned later, and I'm kind of paraphrasing something that I heard, but basically it's about taste, and it's about where you are now and where you want to be, and the whole reason why we got into this racket is because of our taste, right? Like you got good taste in movies, right? You have good taste in movies? Right? Yeah, okay. We all have good taste in movies, right? So why are some movies good, some movies bad? Well, who knows? But the answer is, when you first start making stuff, you make something and you're like, why the fuck isn't this? Sorry, am I allowed to?
That's fair.
Oh, we'll just edit it out.
We're all
You make something and you're like, that sucks. Why isn't this what I like? Why am I not there yet? And the thing is, most people do that. Like, you've all tried things. I tried playing the guitar. I still have it in my closet from when I was 12. You know what I mean? I threw it on the ground because I was good at it automatically. But the people who persist, and the people who keep pushing, and all I can say is just keep making stuff. You know what I mean? Just keep working, keep doing it, keep acting, no matter what it is, because no one's gonna start up here. No one's gonna do. I'm still learning every single day when I'm working. And the thing is that you'll eventually reach that taste, and at points surpass it. There's something like sometimes when I watch that fight, I'm like, who edited this movie? You know what I mean? Because it's just, and it's not just me. It's the collection of all the amazing people who worked on it. But don't get discouraged. Learn from it. Get better. And you'll get there. You'll eventually get there. If this is what you're supposed to do, you will find it, and you will find success in some sort of capacity, and you will be happy with what you have made. So just close that gap, and don't. Oh, it's another thing. Taking and receiving notes is one of the greatest things I've ever learned. Learning how to take them gracefully, because they hurt. And being an editor is a job where you put everything you possibly have in all your experiences of life, and sweat, and you don't sleep, and all that stuff, and you do everything you can, and you're like, yeah, this is good, and you show somebody, and they're like, it's not good enough, try again. And then you do it again and again and again, and either they run out of money or time, or they fire you, and that's just how it is. But
that's how you grow.
How you take those notes, it's always going to hurt when someone says, I don't like that. Or I don't think that's good. And a lot of people don't know how to give them, and that's the other side of it. Gracefully giving notes, gracefully taking them, knowing that yeah, maybe they're telling you because they think they're a better filmmaker than you. Well, you know what? Who cares? Because every once in a while, those people are going to have a great idea, and then you get all the credit for it at the end of the day. So whatever. But yeah, taking and giving notes, especially. And
filtering, like knowing how to filter, because a lot of times.
Smiling out. That's a great idea. I'm gonna smile. I'm gonna try that. That's a great idea. Let me write that down. I'm actually writing a frowny face or something.
But learning how to take them, it's what makes you grow, I think.
Yeah. I really appreciate what you had to say about the journey. It's not about where you're getting, because you're still on that journey. And no matter how far you get along it, you're still going to be on that journey. You're always going to be. You got to enjoy it. Well, guys, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Really
it was
appreciate
a pleasure.
it.
Thank you, guys.